Zog the Heilige Gemara, Shnei Dayana Gzeres Yerushalayim. There are two Dayanim who make Gzeres in Yerushalayim. And their names were Admoin and Chanan ben Avishalom. And there's a whole Tosfos here about the name Avishalom. And Tosfos says, don't think it means Avshalom, because Avshalom was a Russia, and we don't name after a Russia. So it was Avishalom, which is a different name. And there's a whole shaila in Yerushalayim, are you allowed to name after Russia? If you change the name a little bit, we have a name. We name people after Goyim in our nation, right? The name Alexander was named after Alexander the Great. It's not even a Jewish name, but the reason why they named Alexander is because I think he wanted to put up a statue of himself in the base of Mikdash, and they told him, no, we'll do one better. We'll name all of our children Alexander. So you see that there is such a thing of sometimes naming after a Goy. The Chemed brought a shaila that came, I think, Rabbi Yashiv, about a family that was saved in the Holocaust by a Polish couple, and they wanted to name their children after those Polish people. So talk to Gemara. Chanan said Shnei Dvarim. He said two Chedushim, two Gzeres, and Advan Omer Shiva. And that's really what this parak is going to be about these 9 Gzeres that were made. Number 1. Misha halach leMedina Sayam ve'ishto tevas mezainis. Someone went to Medina Sayam, and he's not around, and she needs mezainis, so she wants to liquidate that part of the estate so that she can have mezainis sustenance. Chanan says, Tishava b'soif. She swears, she does not swear to liquidate assets to eat mezainis. Eventually, when she claims her ksuba, if her husband dies, well then she'll swear, Rashi says, there she'll swear that she doesn't have anything that she's not entitled to. But the children of the Kehanim Gedolim argued on him. They said, when she takes from Mezoniah, she swears, and when she takes for Ksuba, she swears. Amar Abdais ben Hirkinas, Kidivreim, like the Divrei b'nei Kehanim Gedolim, Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Yafa Amar Chanan Lois Yishava El B'Soif. In the Mishnah Firzois, Yafa Amar Chanan. So I guess what he's saying is even though Amar Beis Ben Hukah is Kedevrayim Amar no, it's Kedevrayim Kama, right? So it's only Rabbi Dois who said Kedevrayim, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said Yafa Amar Chanan Lois Yishava El B'Soif. And the Yishonim are Ma'oyer, all Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had to say was, Yafa Amar Chanan. What do you repeat the halacha? And they tell us that we learn from here that what happens if when it comes time to collecting from her ksuba, she didn't have to swear. He was around when she got divorced. Does she now have to swear about what she took in the past to make sure it was legit? And the halacha, she doesn't. There is no chiv shvua from Mezainis. And that's what he's saying. There's only a chiv shvua sometimes when she's collecting her ksuba. And if she doesn't have that shvua, it means she'll never ever swear about the Mezainis. We're a mini fact Gemara. You're telling me there's Shnei Dayanik Gzeres, Shloisha Dayanik Gzelos Hayib Yerushalayim. There are 3 Dayanik Gzelos. Who are they? Admoin ben Gedoy, V'Chanan HaMitri, V'Chanan ben Avishalom. So we have a third one here who's the Chanan HaMitri. So first of all, Kasha Tlas Atrain. It's shver that our mission says 2, and the Bribes we quoted says 3. And Kasha Gzeres and Gzelos. And it's also shver because in our mission says Gzeres, and in the mission in the Bribes we quoted says Gzelos. So Tosfos asks, so maybe we're talking about 2 different things. Maybe there's Shnei Dayanik Gzeres and Shlosh Dayanik Gzelos. Right, so let's see the top Tosfos. In Tomer goes Adrabah, Igzela, Ugzeir, Trey Milaninu. Well then, Tolosa Atrei Kasha. So now it's not shver 2 on 3 because there's 2 different subjects. The Dayanik Zela have a Tolosa, and the Dayanik Gzeres will have a Latrei. V'Amar Rebbe. So Tosfos answers, Chada the Einoi Svara Shetehela Dayan Echad Shtei Sraris. It doesn't make sense that one dayan should have 2 areas of control in the Gzeir business and in the Gzela business. Why is that? The Kama Anoshim Chashuvim Hayu B'Yerushalayim. There were plenty of Chashuv and Yidden in Yerushalayim. They had enough Talmidei Chachamim to give each person one ministership, one portfolio of ministership. So therefore, it doesn't make sense to say that we're speaking about two different things. If any one of them would have had shtei soros, you know who it would have been? It would have been the Chanan HaMitzri. You know why? Because Chanan HaMitzri was more choshev than Chanan ben Avishalom, and the reason why we know it is because in the brayso that we quoted, Chanan HaMitzri was mentioned first. So Zok to Gemara, it's not shver that we have two braysos talking about two or three gzeros or gzelos. The choshev leikatani. There might have been more, but we're only listing those who are relevant to the takanas that we're listing off. The leikashav leikatan. That was one shot of the teretz. The other teretz is we're only mentioning hachoshav b'yoser. So I'm sliding right over into Tosfos across. Near the choshav b'yoser. It only lists off the most choshev of the bunch. So those are the two pshatim that we have. Ela gzeros agzelos kasha. What about the fact that our Mishnah says gzeros and the brayso we quoted is gzelos? Amar Nachman bar Yitzchak. So you guys in gzeros al gzelos. The gzeros were about gzelos, so it's not a steer. It was gzeros and it was gzelos. Kedetanya, like we learned, hitman etiyah. What happens if you're a mazik and you chop a tree, but not a tree, a small sapling down? How much do you have to pay? You have to pay 2 kesef if you clip a small sapling, if it's under a year, and bashtei shanim is arba kesef. And the reason for these gzeros are, even though you're paying a much higher value than the actual plant that's worth, it's because in Yerushalayim, even today, is plant a tree in Israel. They wanted there to be beautiful trees in Eretz Yisrael. So it was a punishment if someone would chop down what would have been a tree that was growing towards being a tree in Yerushalayim. We're many fragt Gemara. Shloisha dayan gzeros hayu Yerushalayim. There were 3 dayan gzeros: Admain, v'Chanan, v'Nachum. Amar Papa man Tana Nachum. Who is the Tana who said Nachum? Rab Nosson he. That's Rab Nosson. The Tanya Rab Nosson Omer af Nachum Hamodi. Rav Nosson said that Nachum Hamadi also made gzeros, but Chacham did not agree with him. So it seems to be a shaila if Nachum Hamadi also made a gzera. Are you telling me there are no other dayanim in Yerushalayim? Amar Apinchas, Amar Aboishia, Shalosh Meyos V'Tishim V'Arba. So that's 394. Batei Dinim Hayu Yerushalayim. There were 394 Batei Dinim in Yerushalayim. Seems like people really got along there. And then Kenegdon Batei Chnesiyos, and that's how many shuls they had. Kenegdon Batei Midrashos, which Rashi tells us what were done in the Batei Midrashos Mishnah Ula Talmud. So Batei Chnesiyos L'Spalel, Batei Midrashos L'Mishnah Talmud, and Kenegdon Batei Seifrim Lilmoid Tinoikis. So I'm just. To me, it sounds like any time there was a machlokes, and the guy didn't pass like you. That's it. I'm getting my own bezin. I'm getting my own besmedrash. I'm getting my own schools, my own camps. It's as much as times change, nothing seems to have changed. V'chi kamrinon, agayz gzeros kamrinon. Sure, there's many batei dinim out there, but the 3 or the 2 that we're talking about are gayz gzeros. Not all batei dinim are gayz gzeros. There was only these yechidim who were gayz gzeros. These, we can call them like research scientists because they make gzeros. Where do they get paid from? First of all, how much do they get paid? Tishim v'teishim mana, they got 99 mana a year. And where do they get paid from? Trumas alishka, because they were a public service. They weren't servicing any individual. They were performing a public service for the tzibur that was otherwise not compensated. So the Trumas Alishka took care of any communal expense, and that's where they were paid as well. What if they felt that's not enough for us? Ma'isif and Lahem, you'd give them more. We're talking about the greatest Talmidei Chachamim, the greatest tzaddikim. Could you possibly suggest that they're going to say it's not enough? What do they want to drive fancy cars? Ella, what it means is the opposite. If it wasn't enough, and the Rishonim said there's two reasons why it might not have been enough. A, inflation started making things more expensive, or B, they had very large families, so they couldn't live off a budget that a standard person would live off. So the if it wasn't enough, even though they don't want to take more money, you still give them more money. Karna was a great dayan. Karna was a great dayan, but he didn't work for an official bezin. Imagine there's someone in shul who's a massive Talmid Chacham, and people want to go to him to help settle their disputes. So what he used to do is have a shakel estira mizakai v'estira mechayev. What he would do is a service charge. He would take an estira, which is a small coin, from each of the parties that came to him to the Torah. I didn't see this anywhere, but it sounds, since it says he took from the zakai and took from the chayev, it must be that he took them after he paskined for them. Then they paid, because if it was before he paskined for them, how does he know who was zakai, who was chayev? Because he took from the zakai, he took from the chayev. So I'm assuming he took it after the fact.
Art Scroll actually has a note. It doesn't cite anyone, but it says he would take the estira from each of the litigants, whom he would later either declare liable or not liable.
Say that with?
He would take the money in advance of rendering.
Advance.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell
you where the Art Scroll gets it from. The Art Scroll gets it from Rashi, but Rashi doesn't say it here. Rashi says it a little bit later. So I'm not sure on what part of the Gemara the Art Scroll is referring to. But we'll see Gemara Rashi later. So the halach is Vidan Lahudina, and then he would pass for them. So maybe it's from the Lashon of the Gemara. He took the money and then he passed it. And Rashi says on the Vidan Lahudina, then he would give them their verdict. So if we look at Rashi, Rashi says over here, the Agardina, I'm not going to tell you the verdict, unless you pay me X dollars. But maybe the article is being back from the Lashon of the Gemara here. He would take the money and then the Daludina. And it means he took the money from the one who would eventually be declared Zakai and from the one who would eventually be declared Chayiv. But then it could have just said he took it from both of them. Anyway, how could he charge money to Paskin? V'aksiv, it says, V'shoichad loisikach, he cannot take shoichad. V'chitema, when is it considered shoichad? Hanimili hechid loishakol mitavayu. That if he's not taking an equal amount from both of them. Because Dilma also it's Luyadina, he's going to bend the din to follow the Baldin that paid him off. But Karna, even the Shakal Mitar value, being that he took equal funds from both sides, it wouldn't cause him to corrupt the din. Even so, the is a mutter. But Tanya, we learned the Shoichat loy sikach. Shoichat you should not take. Matamad loy. What is the chiddush of this passage? If it's telling you not to corrupt the din, I already know that Allah. Ella, when it says it must be even if you're going to be paskening correctly. That's still not a problem for Karna. But the Gemara says it is. A bribe maybe, but this is shoichat. Shoichat means you're not allowed to take from a baldin no matter what, even if it's not going to corrupt the din. I'm sorry, because that's probably the closest English word. But halachically, it's called shoichat even if he takes it from both. Zok Gemara, you're right. That's also shoichat. What does he say to my shoichat?
This applies even if both living.
Right. So Hanamili, Heicha the Shakel, B'Torah Shoichat. That's if he's taking it out Shoichat. You give me Shoichat and you give me Shoichat. He gives them both an opportunity to pay him off equally. But Karna, he wasn't taking it out Shoichat, but Darius Igra have a Shakel. It was a service charge. He's providing them with a service. In fact, that's not either allowed. With Darius Igra Mishari, are you allowed to take as a service? But now we learned, Hanoitel Schar Lodun, if someone takes charges for his din Torah, din of Betela. His din doesn't even have validity. That's if you're actually charging for this particular service. But Karna Agar Betela B'Shakel. Karna didn't get paid because of the din. He said, I can't work. I'm a worker man. I can't work in this time. So if you make up what I would have made while I was doing this tindera, so I'll stop working and then I'll do the tindera. Even the agar b'tela mishar, are you allowed to take agar b'tela if you want to paskin? But tanya mechuyer, it's ugly, it's disgusting. Hadayin shenoitel schar lodin. Elo shadina did. Although his psak halacha is valid, but it's still a disgusting thing. Hey chedami, what is this? What is this we're talking about? Ilema agardina. If we're talking about charging for the service of paskening, dinoi din, we know that's not even a good psak. But Tanya hanoitel schar dina v'tela. Elo, this brisa that says it's mechura davar is even speaking about agar b'tela. Elo agar b'tela v'katani mechura adayin. So Karna wouldn't have done something that's disgusting. So once again, how is Karna able to take this money? So if I'm saying I would have made $100 in this time, so pay me $100, but no one knows what I do and no one knows how I would have made that money, that's something that's disgusting. But Ketarna Betel the Mugha Hava Shakel. But if the person did something that everyone knows what he did, and everyone knows that he for sure would have made money in this time that he paskin, there's not a problem to take agra b'tela. Why? To have a toy ba'amar de chamar. You know what Karna did for a living? What a great job. He was a wine smeller. He would smell people's wine to tell them how long this wine will still last. So if you were a merchant and you had a whole bunch of barrels of wine, he would sniff and say, sell this first because this is going to go bad. Sell the second. He would actually, there's a best before date, right? So you wonder, how do they know when exactly the best before date should be? Because they had someone like Karna sniffing all the milk, and he stamped the milk how long the milk would be good for. Zuzan, they would pay him. So everybody knows that he always had work available, and at any given moment he could have been doing this work, and he's stopping to do this work. Why? Because you're asking him to pass him. That schar b'tel is allowed. When they would come to him to do it in Torah, he would tell them, I'm a water shepherd, I'm a water carrier, and I can't carry water while I'm pasking. So give me money that I can pay somebody else to draw the water for me while I paskin, and then the Eidin Luchudina, then I'll paskin for you. So you see a whole bunch of things. First thing you see is in those days, all Dayanim had a job. So I remember Beryl Wine once spoke for us, and he said it used to be that all of the Amiroim and Tanoim, they had jobs. Rabbi Yochanan Sadler, Huna had a job. Everybody had jobs. And what happened is eventually reached a point where a dayan or a Rav had to learn full time, because learning part time is not enough to have the information to be as learned as you need to be a dayan. So Beryl Wine told us at the time, but these days most healers are trying to revert back to the old way. They don't pay Rabbanim so much anymore. I remember he said that for a joke. He was speaking to a group of boys who wanted to become rabbis. So he wanted them to realize the reality. The other thing I want to point out is, that's what I want to point out. Today we do pay basic. If you go to the entire, you pay a Hasmana fee, and then each side pays $150. But the way it's done is you don't pay it to the Dayanim. You pay it to the Bezdin organization. The Dayanim are on a salary, or however they get paid. But you're not writing out a check to the Dayan. You're writing it out to the Bezdin, the organization. The theater that I went to were $150 each. That's all I know. But I don't know. With the big complicated theater, I'm not sure if that's different. Omar Bo Re'eh, come and see how people who accept sheikhad, how their eyes get blinded from seeing reality. And look at this. Adam chash be'einav. If someone has an issue with his eyes, what he'll do is nice and mammon l'roifa. He'll pay a doctor, and Savik misrape, Savik ain't misrape. He doesn't even know if the doctor will be able to help him, but he's going to pay the doctor's fee. And so here people they're so concerned about their eyes that they'll pay even if they're not sure they're going to get healed. And then they noitlan shava pruto misamen name, and then these people are going to take a little bit of money to blind themselves. Vadai, it doesn't make any sense. Shenemar, like it says in the pasuk, ki hashoichad ya'aver pikchem. Sheikhad will make pikchem blind. Chofetz Chaim speaks out that if you go to a person who doesn't have two pennies to rub together, and he tells you, "Oh, Yankel, he's a gvir," so will you think that makes Yankel a billionaire? No. it means Yankel has parnasa, right? But if you go to Rothschild and he says, "Oh, this is Akvir," then you know the guy's a serious Kavir. So here's the Torah talking. The Torah knows what a Pikeich is. The Torah is saying, "Ki Hashoichet Yaver Pikchim." Even the biggest Talmud Chacham, the biggest Goyin, the biggest God Lador, Shoichet will be Ma'aver. Because when the Torah calls you a Pikeich, you're a real Pikeich. Tanu Rabbanim. Ki Hashoichet Yaver Einei Chachamim Kal V'Chomer L'Tipshim V'Salad Divrei Tzadikim, and will distort and corrupt the words of Tzadikim Kal V'Chomer L'Shoim. Frank Gemara, I don't understand. The Torah is telling you that Shoichet is going to corrupt Rishoyim and Tipshim. Tipshim, Rishoyim, B'nei Dininu. No one's going to Din Torah to Tipshim and Rishoyim anyway. So why is it relevant? Now we speak about the Yonim. Halachic Amar. Ki Shoichet Yaver Einei Chachamim, meaning Afilu Chacham Gadol V'Lekech Shoichet Einei Niftim Min Ha'olam B'Lo Yisimi Yosh Alei. What happens is the first time someone takes Shoichet, it takes away some of his focus, some of his objectivity, and then the second time he takes it, it makes him worse and worse until he's totally corrupt. At the beginning, a guy feels guilty, he's taking Shoichet, he's distorting the din. By the time he's used to taking it, he actually believes he's doing the right thing. That's how bad Shoichet is. Fisalev divrei tzadikim, afilu tzadik gomer v'lekech Shoichet, ein niftim min ha'olam v'letir of das. He's also going to lose his mind and his focus. Gewaltig. So there's a very famous story with a Dayan who lived in one of the Sephardi countries. Let me bring it up. I think he lived in Egypt. His name was Reb Chaim Kapusi. Oh, he lived in Cairo, so that was in Egypt. And the story with Reb Chaim Kapusi was he once paskined halacha. He died in 1631. He once paskined the halacha, and the olim didn't like his psak. The olim didn't like his psak. He was a Talmud of the Arizal. He brings over here. And one day what happened is they didn't like his psak, and they were choished him. They started speaking about him. Oh, he's a makabel shoichat, and he happened to have been a dayan. He was blind, so they said shtims. So see, the guy's corrupt, and his psak was corrupt. All right, he's blind. So what did he do to that? So what he did was he got up in shul, and he said, if it's true that I accepted shoichat, then I should continue to be blind till the day I die. But if they're false and they didn't take shoichat, let HaKadosh Baruch Hu give me a refuah right now, and I should be able to see. And on the spot, he was able to see. He was off in the ace. So it blew everybody who was arguing with him out of the water, because they saw that he was able to restore his eyesight. Here it says he died at 91. But there's a famous story with a dayan who lost his hearing. He lost his hearing. So they told him, dayan, you must have taken shoichat, but if you've taken shoichat, you should be blind. You shouldn't be deaf. He said, no, because I never saw the money. I just heard them promise me money. So therefore, I only lost my hearing, not my vision. Zok the Heilige Gemara weiter. Darish Rab Nachman Bar Koyim. It says in the pasuk, Melach b'mishpat yamed eretz. A melach in mishpat, he's going to hold up the world. But the ish trumas, but someone who takes gifts, Yersena is destroying the world. Im doime dayin lemelach. If your dayin is like a melach, sheinit tzarech l'klum, he doesn't need anything. He doesn't take anything from anybody. Then yamed eretz. But im doime lekoyin. What's a koyin? Shemechazer al agrana. She goes to the different granaries to solicit the donations of truma. Yersena, he's going to destroy the world with paskin. And Tosha brings out another shot of the same pasuk, is that if your dayin like a melech, he doesn't need to ask anybody anything, because he knows kol atar kula, he's a good dayin. But if you have a dayin who doesn't know, he has to ask for help too much, that's not a good dayin. Amar Rabba Bar Rav Shila, hi dayana the shal shilta. If there's a dayan who tends to borrow, can I borrow your lawnmower? Can I borrow your hedge trimmer? Can I borrow your whatever it is? Someone who's borrowing stuff, so he's relying on people a lot. Possible made in dina, because once again, since he's borrowing from people and benefiting from them, it's like he's accepting shoichat. That's only if he doesn't lend them things. Because if he's lending them things, well, then it's part of being in a community. You know, you lend things that you have, you borrow things. That's a normal thing. That's not shoichat. But if he does have things that he could lend, less labah, because like we said, it's part of normal society. Although there are those who learn that whenever he borrows, he has to lend that person back something in order for him to remain neutral. Any fact the Gemara, but Rabba Shal Shelter be Devei Bar Marion, Rabba borrowed something from the house of Bar Marion, Afal Gab Lo Shaila Minei, even though they never borrowed anything from them. So Gemara, Rabba didn't really need anything from Devei Bar Marion. He wanted them to feel good. Oh, I lent Rabba something. So Hasam Lach Shevinu Hu the boy. That's only because he wanted to give someone Kesubos. Amar Rava said, my timer, the shuchta, what's the svar of shoichad? How does it disrupt? How does it corrupt your vision and your comprehension of a situation? Kivin the kabbalah shuchta minei. Once you accept shoichad from somebody, you become close and friendly. You feel love towards that person. So now it's like he's part of you. A person could never see his own guilt. A person will always justify his own actions. And therefore, once someone's close to you and you feel he's part of you, well, then you will always justify his actions. My shoichad, what is the definition of shoichad? Shahu chad. What does that mean, shahu chad? Rashi says, hanoisen b'makabel nasim levechad. It makes the two people into one, which reinforces what the Gemara is saying, that it creates a kravas adas, and therefore you won't be able to see lim chayva. Frek the klei yakar. What do you mean, shoichad, shahuchad? Shoichad is talking about the actual money that changed hands. Shahuchad is not the money that changed hands. Shahuchad means two people end up having a kir of das. But how does that define the shoichad himself? So the klei yakar and shahuchad means it's sharp. Money is sharp. What does that mean? A sharp knife cuts something very quickly. So too, the shoichad makes it that the dayan, when he hears it starting, will very quickly pass in like the person who gave him the shoichad. It makes it simple and clear to him because he took the shoichad. Omar Papa, a person shouldn't pass for somebody who he likes very much, and not to somebody who he hates. Because he won't be able to see any guilt in this person. Suddenly, the person who he hates, he will not be able to see any schus. Omar Abai, I love this word. If you have a Rav who everybody loves him, it's not because he's such a great guy. It's because he doesn't give them musar when they need musar. So of course they like him because he never says anything that makes them feel uncomfortable. I think there's a famous word from somebody, I don't remember who it was, but he said, a Rav who they don't want to throw out is kinrovnished. And a Rav who they succeed in throwing out is conventionist. So a Rav has to be somewhat not liked because he's always holding people's feet to the fire. Right?
So he went to this town, and everyone town wanted him. And then finally goes to town, yeah, we don't want your position. This is where I'm staying.
Amarava, Maresh Havamina. I used to say, Hani b'nei mechuza, kula rachmuli. I used to think that everybody in mechuza loves me. Kivan, Tavoy Daina, Amina, once I was a dain, Amina, so obviously I passed like somebody and unlike others. So not naturally I made people not like me. At least for every psak din that I gave, someone didn't like me. Unless I made a pshar, then both didn't like me. Amina minayu sani li, uminayu rachamali. Some people hate me, some people like me. But given the chazoi, the man of Mechayev leha'idna, because once I saw that I'm not consistently being Mechayev each person. Every person, sometimes I pass in their favor, and sometimes not. So they see that already. They're not going to love me or hate me over my Piskei Halacha because they see that I pass objectively. Amino. So then I realized, Im Racham Kulu Rachamali, Im Esana Kulu Sanili. Then if they like me, they like me. If they hate me, they hate me. But it's not totally on how I paskin because each person had varying results with me because I paskin halacha. Tanarabana v'shoichad lo sikach ain't tzorich loimer shoichad mammon. Of course, mammon of bribery is usher to take. Elafilu shoichad dvarim nami usher. Even a more subtle type of shoichad, a shoichad of words, we're going to see this really means subtle actions, are also usher to take. With likes of bets lo sikach. It doesn't say don't take bets and don't take cash. It's just shoichad. Shoichad is anything that would cause me to be chad. Hey chadami, Shoichet Dvarim. What's an example of Shoichet Dvarim? Ki the Shmuel have over b'mavra. He was crossing over in a boat or a bridge. What does Rashi say for mavra? Rashi is gesher, a bridge. He was crossing a bridge. Also, Gavra, a gentleman came along. He stuck out his hand to Shmuel to help him steady himself. So Shmuel said, "Oh, Shalom Aleichem, who are you? How can I help you?" Dina Isli. I'm actually coming to you to the Torah. I'm here. I see you need a hand. I gave you my hand. So Shmuel said, "Sorry, pasilna lach ledina. I'm not possible. You know why? Because you simply stretched out your hand to help me steady myself." And there's a shaila in the Rishonim. Was this halacha lemaisa, or was just a chumrah that Shmuel was extra makbid not to show any type of perception of accepting bribes? A Meimer was paskening, and Parach Gatva Aresha, and a feather fell on his head, like you go over to God, you see a lint on his lapel. Also Gavri Shakli. So this person went and pulled the lint off, wiped off the feather. Simple action like that. So Amim asked him, "What do you need here?" I'm actually coming to the entire. Someone that spit on the floor in front of him, and he was going to walk into it. Also, who gavra kasis. So someone came and covered it over with earth, so Marukva shouldn't have to get dirty with it. Amalei Marukva asked the Maya v'detayich. Amalei Dina Isli. I'm coming here to the Torah. Amalei told him, "Pasil nelach l'dina, apostle to be your diet." Rabbi Shmuel bar Yosy have a ruggle arisei that v'maisele kol mal shapso kanto the peri. Rabbi Shmuel bar Yosy was a landowner, and he had a sharecropper who worked his land, and he was entitled to part of the fruits that grew there. So on a regular basis, every Erev Shabbos, the Aris who worked for him brought him his share of the payers. So he wasn't giving him payers that didn't belong to him. These belonged to Rabbi Shmuel bar Yosy. They were his share of the Arisos. One day his Aris came, instead of on a Friday, came on a Thursday. So Rabbi Shmuel bar Yosy asked his Aris, "Why are you here a day early?" Dina Isli. I have it entire with you. And I figured, Agav Orchi, Lamar. Why should I schlep back again tomorrow? I have to come in today anyway, so I'll bring you your fruit today instead of schlepping in tomorrow. Rabbi Shmuel bar Yosef refused to accept this. A bigger chiddush, his own parents he refused to accept from the Aris, and Amrlei Pasilna Lach Ladina. Yeah. So you know what you see over here? You see over here that even though he didn't take it, and it was his own, he still didn't want to pass it. Oisev Zuzah the Rabbanon, and he took Zuz could be a Zug. They took a pair of Dayanim. In other words, this Oris had to go sit by two other Dayanim for the entire. And the Mefarshim asked, so what do you mean two Dayanim? Don't you need three Dayanim? So it's brought down in the Gemara that when they're real big mumchen, even two Dayanim could pass in the case. The Kadainina, and they were passing on behalf of his Oris. But how did the Ka'azal Vasi? Now, Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosy was in the Besmedrash, and he was listening in to this dintar that was occurring with his Oris, who only attempted to bring him these pairs. The Asi Amar, the cause of Asi, he heard this dintar going back and forth. As he's listening to the dintar, he's saying, Amar, the Oris could have tied this, he would have been right. The Oris could have tied that. He was thinking of all these great arguments in his mind. He wasn't expressing them. But in his mind, he was thinking about all these great arguments that the Oris could say that the Oris would have won. And that's when he realized, this little thing caused me shoichad. Amar tipach nafsham shel makabel shoichad. The nefashos of people who accept shoichad should be beaten. You know why? Umandi madechmi shaloi netalti. I didn't even take a penny. And even the im netalti, even had I accepted those payers, shaloi netalti, they were my payers anyway. Kach, I'm so biased. In my mind, all I could think of are tiniest to benefit this Oris. Mekabel shoichad al achas kama v'kama. You can imagine people who really take bribes, how corrupted their minds are. Because he wanted to do him a favor and bring him the fruit extra. I guess not, because you see, the only problem was that he brought him the pairs. Having a business relationship with somebody it wouldn't disqualify. That's a good point. Right? So he's asking, forget the whole shaykhah business. They were doing business together. I hear. Rabbi Shmuel bar Elisha, I see le'ahu gaver rachis against. Someone brought a rachis against. We know that when you shear your sheep, you have to bring the first shearings to the kohen. Omer lay, right? We know where Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha was because there's a song about him. Tanya, right? Tanya Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha. Yeah. Okay. Omer lay, Mehechat. Asked him, where are you from? Omer lay, Miduch Plan. I'm from this place. Umehasam lahacha have a coin lemeisvlei. Are you telling me you couldn't find a coin between your place and my place to give it to? Why did you schlep the ratios against to me? Amalei, to the person answered, Dina Isli, I have it entire. But I mean, I figured, Agav Urchai, I see Lamar. Instead of making a special trip to go to some other village to find a coin, I knew I had to come to you for the entire. So I figured I'll bring you my ratios against. Amalei Basil Lachladina. Now I cannot pass with you anymore. And like Kabbalah, and he didn't accept the ratio against you. Again, he set him up with another set of the other, the Kadainile, and the same story. Because of Yosy, Amar, he said, Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha's mind was focusing on all the different kindness to prove this fellow right. Amar, he said, I'm still so biased. Now he says in the Talti because as a kohen, this ratio again belongs to me. Rab Anan Aisilei Ahu Gavra cancer the Gildani the Vegil. Rab Anan, someone brought him a bucket of fish, small fish, herring. Oh, Amrlei, my viditach. What time should bring me this fish? Amrlei Dina Isli. I have it entire. Like Kalamine. So Rab Anan did not accept the fish. Amalei, and as well, Pasilna Lach Ludin. I'm also possible to pass them for you. Amalei, Dina Damar Leibaina. I don't need you to pass them for me. Don't pass them for me. But Kabula Likbobar, at least accept this gift. Why? The Loila Manon Mar Bikurim. I don't want you to prevent me from bringing Bikurim. Now, this isn't actual Bikurim, these are fish, not fruit, but we're going to soon see in a second. This pasuk that teaches us that you're supposed to give Talmidei Chacham gifts, and that's considered like bikurim. The Tanya ve'ish ba mibal shalisha v'yavei Elisha leikim. He brought to Elisha the Navi lechem bikurim esrim lechem sha'arim v'karmel b'tzikloinai, and this barley that was still on its stalk. V'chi Elisha oichel bikurim hava. Was Elisha someone who can eat bikurim? And there's a machlokes what this means. Rashi learns Elisha was not a kohen; he was from Shevet Gad. Tosfos says it doesn't matter whether he's a kohen or not. Elisha was in Shomron. In Shomron is not an Eretz Yisrael, and there's no chiyuv to bring bikurim there because bikurim are eaten in Yerushalayim. Shomron wasn't in Yerushalayim, that is. So there's no bikurim in that place. So what was this gift that we're calling bikurim that this person brought to Elisha? That's the reason
why he gave it.
That's right.
Why didn't he accept it?
Because once you had even had a thought to give me a gift, I don't want it.
I'm not passing.
Wait till the end. Wait till the end of the story. Wait till the end of the story. Wait till the end of the story. Amr Lei, he told him, Kibule loy ba'inin the litbil. I don't want to take it. I don't want to take it. Hashda the Amrtli Taima, but now that you're telling me a good reason, I'll be kurim to give a Talmud Chacham, I'll accept it. So he ended up accepting the gift, but he wasn't going to pass it there. But what did he do? Shadri l'kamed Reb Nachman, I'll give you a referral to Reb Nachman. I'll write a letter to Reb Nachman. I'm sending this fellow to you as a din Torah. Shalach lei, and what did he send? The following message: Nedai neimar lahai gavra. Send, please paskin for this fellow. Da na'anan pasilna leiladina, because I'm possible to paskin for him. Now he didn't write why he was possible. He just wrote that he was possible. Omar. So Reb Nachman thought to himself, midashalach lihachi, since he sent it to me like this, shemamina krevehu. It must be that this gentleman who Reb Anan sent to me is a curve of Reb Anan, and now it's a curve of a Talmud Chacham. I also have to give him preferential treatment. Havakom dina diasmi kamei. He was about to start a din Torah with Yosy, but a Talmud Chacham takes precedence. Even the family of Talmidei Chacham take precedence, and he bumped the line. Omar hayasei v'hayasei. there's an essay to Paskin Ushafatim Tzedek, and there's an essay. There's actually Shaila how to learn this. They're both an essay, and therefore I want to be Makrim Talmud Chacham, or there's an essay to go in order, and there's an essay to have covered HaTorah. And he said, I'll say the covered Torah other. And Soke Ladina de Yasme, but Axel Ladine. And what the dying did was he bumped them in front. Now I think Rashi says Avada, they didn't start. Because if they already started the Yosim's din, he wouldn't have done that. But a Talmud Chacham himself who comes, then even if he's in the middle of a din Torah with a Yosim, he would stop and pause and break to deal with Talmud Chacham first, but not for family. So he bumped this fellow, thinking that this fellow was Reb Anan's family ahead. Now, even the Chaza Baldine, Yakra, the Ka'avedle, now the fellow who came to Din Torah with this guy, he saw, hey, whoa, look at this. They're giving him so much favor. So he got nervous already that there's no way they'll be able to hear my titles properly, because look at how they're treating him. Is statim tainase, and because of that, his opponent couldn't say proper titles, and it impacted the halacha. It might have impacted the psak din because he couldn't properly articulate himself. Now the Rishonim ask Akasha that we do give preferential treatment to a karev, or not to a karev. If it's a non-karev to a karev, we do give preferential treatment to a karev. So how can we do that? So the answer is because if in fact he was a karev of a Talmud Chacham, then the guy wouldn't have been istatim tainose, because I would have known that my opponent is a karev to a Talmud Chacham, and that's why they're giving him priority, and I benefit. I don't need to have to wait in line, right? It's like you're waiting in traffic court. They call you first. You don't have to sit there whole day. But here he knew that this guy wasn't related to Rabbanon, so he didn't know what's going on. Maybe there's some monkey business going on over here, and it got him spooked, and therefore the opponent couldn't properly taina, and because of that, because there was a problem. So Rabbanon got punished for this. Rabbanon have a rogel Elio to Osi Gabei. Rabbanon had a chavusha shach with Elio Hanavi. Have a masnile seder Elio. He would teach him Elio. We know there's something called Elio Rabba, Elio Zuta. It's the tons of Elio. It's things that Elio taught. So Elio was teaching this. But once he did this, he wrote this letter to Reb Nachman. Istalik. He lost his chavusha shach with Elio. He felt bad. Yosef b'tainisa, he sat b'tainis, and that's to be mechaper on the fish that he ate. Uboy rachmi, and he davened to the Rebbeinu Shalom that he should be zeicher to have Gilu Elio again. And Elio came back, but this time he didn't come back dressed as a person, so it was normal to learn with. He came back as a malach. He also have a mavis lebeuse. Now Reb Anna was terribly spooked and afraid every time Elio Hanavi came. So he made a box for himself, so he shouldn't have to sit directly face to face with the malach, which is too scary for him. The Yosef Kamei Ada Apokei Sidre. He would sit in the box while he was learning with Elio Hanavi. Behind the Amri, Seder de Elio Rabba, Seder Elio Zuta. Elio Rabba is the many years dealing with Elio Hanavi before this occurred, and then the learning that did with Elio after it in a box was called Elio Zuta. Now the Chassam Sofer has a very important rule when it comes to Elio Hanavi. When it comes to Elio Hanavi on this world. And he said Elio Hanavi comes to this world in two forms. So you see many stories where Elio Hanavi comes in the form of a person. When Elio Hanavi comes in the form of a person, he's like a regular human being, and that's why he's subject to all of the halachas of the world. He's not allowed to violate any mitzvahs. But when Elio Hanavi comes in the form of a malach, like he comes to every bris. He doesn't come in the form of a human. He comes in the form of a malach. I happily travel out of the Tchum on Shabbos. When he comes in the form of a malach, Elio Hanavi is not subject to any mitzvahs. There he's considered a malach, and Elio comes a lot, but he comes in different forms, and he's only subject to the halachas when he comes in the human form. And the shaila is, why do we say teku? Take a tishbi yitaris kushis v'bois. Why do we say meku? Moshe Rabbeinu yitaris kushis v'bois. What's up is Elio? Why isn't Moshe? Moshe is the rabbin of Yisrael. The teretz is the only type of dayan who could paskin for us is someone who's in the world, someone who knows what goes on, knows the reality of the world. The Rambam could have never paskin the shayla on hilchos electricity because he didn't know what electricity was. Right. So therefore, Elio Hanavi, who throughout the generations has always been circulating amongst us, only he is able to answer all of our shaylos. That's right. Bread, only b'derech malach. That's right. Only b'derech malach, or we're going to say tonight, drinking all that wine, right? Because they come out malach. That's right. So someone told me a beautiful word, also from the Chesed Sofer. There was a malshin in the city, and his name was Simcha. And one day he said, "I'm going to be malshin on the yeshiva, and we're going to shut the yeshiva down unless you pay me off." So they came to the Chesed Sofer. What should we do? So the Chesed Sofer said, "No one's getting my yeshiva shut down. Don't worry about it." And as this guy stepped out of his house, he had some type of seizure. His tongue went back into his throat, and he was choking to death. So they came running to Chesed Sofer. Rebbe, do something. He says, "What do you mean do something? I did it already." So what happened was he died, of course. And after he died, some Sofer says, "I want you to bring the Levaya past the yeshiva, because I want to say a couple of words when this mace passes by." So the mace passes by, and the Sofer said, "Simcha le'artzecha, v'sasoim li'yirecha." Okay, we'll stop here.
I still don't understand why I can't take it. I understand why he can take it.
Yes, you want to ask the question?